Hi everyone, it's Jackie. Welcome back, and today I'm doing one of my tag-along tutorials, Craft with Me's, and we're going to have a go at doing a version of these tags. Thinking of doing a woodland journal, so I was messing about with the woodland journal is for Julie at the old design shop. It would be a design team project for her. So this is part of that, I suppose, but these are some of the woodland images that I've got from Julie's shop, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And for these tags I've used, as you can see, I've used the ATCs in the portrait. These are gorgeous too. Just love the colours. So I'm sticking with toadstools and we'll get started. So I'm starting with a piece of card which I've cut to 3 inches by just under 5 3/4. Excuse me, being a bit croaky. I had a day out yesterday at the badminton horse trials here in the UK, which was absolutely fantastic. So I've used my, you can see I've used my template here to cut the corners off. It was absolutely brilliant, but very tiring and a lot of walking. So I'm quite achy. I definitely don't get enough exercise. For my background paper, I'm using a page out of an old vintage maths book. So I'm just going to stick that on first. I always try and have pieces of scrap paper cut or torn ready like this, that I can just use them to glue on and then throw them away basically. Sometimes I use them more than once, sometimes not. I'm going to use the slightly denser side for this, but I can line it up so that it's fairly straight. Back here. Oh, that didn't look straight, does it? That should be fine. So that's glued on with glue stick, and I'm going to cut round. So this is another, this is a fairly simple tag like before. I think I've added an extra layer into this one just to show you how layering up, I think, is what adds a really nice detail to your tags. Cut that off, and then I'm going to use my walnut stain distress ink just to go around the edges. I will be stitching on this tag. You don't have to stitch. I obviously really like the look it gives, but I didn't used to sew at all when I was making these types of things, and they still look great, so give that a go one way or the other. Okay, so to layer this up, I'm using some cheesecloth. Well, it's not really cheesecloth. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know where I got it, but it's a very loose weave, sort of, I think it was cream to start with, and I think it's a little bit stiff because I put some acrylic paint on it at some point. It's hard to remember really. It was in my scrapbooks. So I'm just going to pop that on like this. This is the image I'm using. It's a paler one than the others. And again, I ink the edges. Even if I don't want a lot of distress ink actually on the image, I usually ink so that the white edges are covered, and I think that also improves the look. But I didn't want to put this directly on there, so I found some toning scrapbook paper, and I'm going to layer this up on here. So I'm going to do that by gluing And then I need to make a decision about whether I want to tear these edges or leave them straight. On this one, I used a ruler to tear the edges. I think we'll do that again. So this is going to be a bit tricky because I haven't got much paper. So let's go. So we use this torn edge. I wouldn't normally use a white edge, but because I can ink it, that'll be fine. And then with the ruler, I'm just going to line that up, press down quite hard and just tear across. I'll do this one. I'm not measuring this, it doesn't have to be absolutely precise, unless you want it to be, of course. There we go. And again, ink the edges. And the next thing I'm going to do is some stitching, which I am going to do off camera. Partly because I can't really show you with the way I have to set things up, and also it's quite noisy. What I'm going to use is a zigzag stitch round here and a straight stitch round the edge of my tag. And when I've done that, I'll come back and show you how I finish this one off. See you in a minute. Okay, so we've done the stitching. I've used a variegated cotton, which tones in really nicely with those images. I will put a link underneath to Julie's shop. What I really like about Julie's digital images, are that she has loads and loads of ephemera ones. So if you're not able to get genuine vintage ephemera, her shop is brilliant to go to for those types of things. Ledgers, all sorts. She's got school books and things like that that you can get from her site to use as backgrounds, that type of thing. Okay, so straight stitch and our zigzag. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac now to glue these together. I could have stitched it straight on, obviously, but sometimes I like to leave the back of the tags with not too much stitching on them, showing through to the back, and then they can be used as journaling cards to write on if they're included in a journal, that type of thing. So Fabri-Tac on the back of this. I think I've said before, mine is getting very gloopy. I keep thinking I must do something about that. You can fix it by adding a little bit of acetone into the bottle. So that's going on there. And then I wanted, so I'm leaving similar amount top and bottom there. And then I wanted something to decorate the bottom. And I had this sari silk. And you can see that it was sort of in two bits. So what I did was cut off this piece. Let's get a bit more. Okay. So I've cut off the thin attached bit. I don't know how to put that. And I'm going to put a section of this along the bottom. I'm going to overlap it slightly past the edges of the tag. Just fray the edges a little bit. And then just to dress that up a bit, I placed the sort of hairy bit on the top. Snip that off. And again, before I stitch that, I just use a little bit of glue stick to hold it in place. And I find that my sewing machine is fine with that. It stitches through that. Just hung it over slightly at the bottom. Put another little bit along the centre there, just to hold this piece in place. And it doing this just adds a little bit more texture. So what I will do is stitch this. I'm going to use a zigzag again, and then I'll come back and do the finishing bits and bobs. Okay, so we're back to finish this tag off. I've zigzagged across this bit, so we've got some nice texture going on down there. I've got a little found quote from my little box of torn out quotes. I'm just going to ink the edges of this. It just adds extra interest and an extra layer. This time I'm using Cosmic Shimmer Glue. Hopefully that's... Sorry, I think I might have gone out of... There we go. So I'm just going to pop that down here. And then for the top, putting in an eyelet, just a bronze coloured eyelet. And then I've got some more of this, actually it's slightly different but similar, more of this sari silk. I'm not going to tie it this time, I'm just going to pop it through like this. Two different shades showing. And then I will show you my twine. I've got this big ball of string, which this pleases me, but obviously nobody would ever know. This is actually vintage gardener's twine. I bought it at a vintage fair. Paid quite a lot for it. But I like that it's old. I don't know, that's just a silly thing really. You could use anything. Embroidery thread would look quite nice. And what I'm doing is just tying these two pieces of sari silk together. I think I'll just use a knot. You could use a bow. I can't remember what I did on the others. I'll have a look in a minute. And then just pull those up a little bit. It just sort of trains it to go in that direction. If it doesn't go exactly how you want it, you can always add a tiny bit of clear glue on the knot. And then I'm just going to trim this a little bit more. And I'm actually just going to trim a little bit of this hairiness off. Just a little bit, there we go. So that's our tag almost finished. I'm going to add a charm at the top here, and I've got these little acorns. I'm going to put them onto a ball pin. But I am going to do that with a jump ring, just so. I just find it helps everything sit a bit better. I haven't done much of this on camera. Hopefully it'll work. So I've pulled the jump ring forwards and now I'm pushing it back. Just making sure there's no gap there. Pop it on the pin and then just push that through. And there we've got our little charm at the top, sitting nicely. On these tags, I felt like it needed a bit at the bottom, so for this one I used some little metal flowers that I'd got, sort of flat. I think they're meant to link. Beads together on bracelets, and I stuck those down with glossy accents. Same with this one. I had this wooden butterfly with similar colours to this particular image, so that's glued on there with glossy accents, and there's a little bit of embroidery thread through the buttonholes and I've pulled that forward to look like butterfly antennae. And on this one I'm going to use a bit of bling, and I haven't got much brown bling but I did find these and these. So I think what we'll do is pop, let's go for a variety. So let's go for and what I'll do off camera, I probably will put a little dab of glossy accents behind these just to make sure that they're going to stick. But just for the video, I'll pop them on like this. And we'll have 5. So I've used the brownie shades. I was thinking of using that coppery one, but we'll do that. So that's our finished tag with a mess around me. Hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like more, I will carry on. If you've been watching me on Instagram, I think I've said this before, I've got some more elaborate tags to show you, and I'll do that in a video, and then we'll do some more of these tag-alongs with the more complex tags. Thank you.